Hello and welcome. My name's Anna Kroll. I am a physiotherapist and I've had 2 research papers published looking at a biotensegrity focused approach to working with pelvic organ prolapse. And I wanted to make this short video just to answer a couple of the most commonly asked questions. So number 1 is about avulsion. People will often ask me, does this approach to treating prolapse work when someone has an avulsion? Well, there's actually some debate in the scientific literature about whether an avulsion is a true detachment of the muscle from the bone or not. I would advise that you check out Da Silva's histological study of avulsion from 2019. It's a paper which proposes that avulsion is not actually a true detachment, but represents instead a section of muscle and fascia which has been pulled and stretched thin due to a tension problem further along the chain. The way that I see it is that if you've got your pelvic floor muscle with quite a lot of muscle bulk at the back and not very much at the front, and if you get a lot of tension restriction, tethering, potentially due to scar tissue in one side at the back, then that's going to act to pull thin the tissue at the front on that side, which can then be assessed as a lack of contraction and a lack of muscle bulk. So I think it'd be really interesting to see where the research goes around avulsion following on from Da Silva's paper, because if avulsion is not really a true detachment from the bone and is in fact this pulling thin due to tension and restriction at the back, then we've got a much more optimistic outlook for those women. Okay, question 2 is about hypermobility. So a lot of people will say, again, does this method work for people that are hypermobile? Well, we know that hypermobile people experience pain where they develop gripping responses in response to feeling too soft and squishy. Hypermobile people will generally feel like their tissues are quite soft, and then they'll perhaps overuse areas and then develop pain. For those that feel too soft or too squishy through the glutes, through the buttock muscles, the natural response is to then kind of grip and hang on where they feel like they can create tone in that area. For many women, that's actually the posterior pelvic floor, so the back of the pelvic floor. This then builds up underlying tension in the back of the pelvic floor, which then, according to this model, could then lead to prolapse. So essentially, people with hypermobility feeling soft and squishy through the glutes, gripping and hanging on where they can, so through the back of the pelvic floor, building up bands of tension, which then pull the organ out of alignment. We know that hypermobile people do really well by strengthening through the glutes, by feeling strong and high tone through the glutes. So looking at it through this model, we'd be saying that adding tone into the glutes allows people to learn to switch off and not grip through the back of the pelvic floor, and then that's going to help them with their prolapse. So essentially, it's the same underlying pathophysiology as saying tension, stiffness, and pulling is causing the prolapse, but for these clients, to help them to release the tension in the pelvic floor, we're actually looking to increase tone and strength and stability through the glutes. Okay, and the menopause. So why do so many prolapses appear during the menopause? Well, my understanding of this is that while the tissues are generally quite elastic, they have a certain amount of ability to compensate, make up for areas of stiffness, stuckness, tension. But as that general tissue elasticity drops, so does that adaptive capacity. So that's when they might start to see those prolapse symptoms, when actually the underlying cause of the tension that's causing that prolapse may be a birth-related scar from decades earlier. Okay, thanks. I hope that's answered some of your questions. Thank you.